Welcome, everybody. Every Wednesday night at 7:30, we bring you the price report. And I talk to someone who's put their life into trading, put their life into cryptocurrency and many other assets in the world, someone that can give you insight and value to how to become a millionaire, how to change your life, and how to really get yourself into a great place financially. Again, not financial advice, but these are just great tools, tips, and tricks that you may want to follow. This person I consider a crypto lifer. He does trade stocks, but he's on Bitcoin every single day, and I'm sure he's stashing his Satoshis too. I mean, he believes in the long run. I've met him in Miami. We became pretty good friends. I love to see what he does. He's an amazing magician on the charts. Welcome, Gareth Soloway, everybody. Gareth, how you been? Thank you so much for coming in today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to ask you, right? The journey of trading is so different. You know, some people get into stocks early. Some people, I started buying gold and silver bars, like literally. Then I realized, oh, what do I do with this? I had too much of it. And I was like, it was too heavy. I started trading. Next thing you know, I realized, wow, you can turn small amounts into more. But how did you start? Like, where was it for you? Was it your family? Was there an uncle? Was there a brother? Was there someone in your life? Or were you just, young Gareth, 12 years old? Did you start trading? Like, how did it all begin?
Yeah, so it started real back when I was young, and I grew up in a household where we didn't have a lot of money. My parents didn't have any investments, and it was kind of one of those things where I got into high school and I was looking for how to pad my resume to get into a good college or a good university, and one of the things popped up. It was the investment challenge kind of group or after school activity. And I just gave it a shot. And it was in kind of the 99-ish, 98, 99 period when .com stocks were going nuts, right? So imagine me, I was about 16, 17 years old, and I had a fake 100,000 account. And before you know it, I turned it into like 200,000 and 300. Very, very crypto-esque for 2021. But as a kid that didn't have a lot of money, it was addicting. It was really addicting. Like, holy cow, I just made more money. Granted, it was fake, but then my parents doing a full year, both of them working, they didn't even come close to making 100K. It was probably around the 50, 60K level that they were making. So I was like, man, I have to figure this out. I have to put my life into it. And I knew I wanted to be a trader. I didn't know how to get there. And so I went to school for economics. After school, I was like, okay, well, let me go work for MetLife. MetLife, great company, don't get me wrong. But, being the low man on the totem pole, it was like, get the hell on the phones, cold call and try to get people to sign up for insurance or financial planning. I hated it, man. I hated trying to call people up. I hated the rejection, people hanging up on you, all that crap. And after 1 year, literally to the day, my mom always told me never leave a job less than 1 year because it looks weird on your resume. And so 1 year came and I was like, I'm done. And I had saved 10K and I went to a prop firm and I started trading and I sucked, just like everyone, right? There's no one that just is a magician at trading when they start. You have to learn. And it took me a long time. I worked 3 side jobs. I was like a bartender. I taught bartending on the weekend to people. I worked at a catering company, all at the off hours so that I could put money to trading because I was losing. So I would lose some money and I'd be like, oh man, now even with my prop firm amounts, it was still like not enough to trade. All right, got to work more, put it into that account, just keep on padding that account with the hope and the dream that eventually I would be profitable. And it took a while. I mean, it took a while, but slowly it did come into focus for me where I started to study more and more and get control of my emotions and all of the things that you need to do to become a pro trader. And so, 2007 started inthemoneystocks.com and been trading ever since.
You know what I love about this interview is I've watched many of your interviews. You've probably done hundreds, right? And I never heard this story. Like, I love this, I never heard, like, I can see you just walking the streets or hitting the phone trying to sell. I was in New York. I took so many weird, different types of jobs. I remember being a salesman at one point in the hot summer and the big MetLife, I was on 42nd Street, but in New York City, if you look up on Park Ave, you'll see the MetLife building there. And like, you just kind of gave me a memory of being back in New York.
Yep. That's where I was. I was on Long Island. So right in
I
that
was about to ask,
area.
were you in New York City? So you're from Long Island, born and raised? Because I met you in Florida, but you're born and raised in New York. I spent 20 years in New York City. So
my early life, really early, before I was like 7 or 8, I was in just outside of Boston. And then we moved to Long Island for my parents' work. They're both teachers, by the way. So they were both I came up through this educational lifestyle, which I also attribute to me being relatively good at educating. And really that's a passion of mine to just, I took so many lumps in terms of losses as a trader. And like, I do think, and I do hope that helping people, right? I know you do this too, is like, if people can learn from our mistakes and just lose 10% less, then we've done our job, right? Because everyone's going to take a loss in trading, but it's about, can you mitigate and kind of make those smaller?
Well, like one of my traders, he joined like a competition the other day, and I put out like a rising wedge, like, and I was like, don't be afraid to short down at 26.2. There's and he put out like a $7,000 win, and he's like, dude, like, like, granted, he took the trade, he did his thing, right? But he learned what divergence was. He learned what a rising wedge was, right? And he had been, we pounded into his head for a year and a half straight. He finally had the confidence to take the trade. You know what I mean? And boom, like it's and when you see someone finally break through the fear because they're actually doing it over and over again.
Yeah.
My mom was also a teacher. She did reading recovery, kids that fell back, and she would kind of, try to bring them at least back up to speed, or if not, at least give them the best education she could. While they, a lot of these kids were suffering and having bad home life.
Yeah, man.
I come from a caring mother that was so awesome, and I treat my students, very similar to you, man. Like, and honestly, this is what I want everyone to know too. Like, I met Gareth, and I felt like a student to him, and I was asking him questions, and he never made me feel uncomfortable. He was open. He told me things that would help me later on. And I just,
thank you, man.
Just so you guys know, man, he's the real deal. Like, I just, I don't like to have people on my channel that I don't truly love and respect. And he's been so nice and such a blessing in the space too, for me as a new kind of face in the trading world. And I just really appreciate that. And every time I see him, it's been a blessing, man. Like, it was awesome. Like, that was great.
Dude, super nice words, and I thank you for that. And I would just like to also give a shout out to all the teachers out there. It sounds like we both came up through that. And there's one profession that doesn't get enough credit. It's teachers, man. It is a hard job, and it generally doesn't pay like it should. And so shout out to all the teachers out there.
Yeah, they should all get at least like $250,000 a year for all.
Dude,
at the very
seriously,
least.
man. And the thing is, what this drives me nuts, and not to get off topic, but like,
no,
they're literally in charge of shaping the next generations.
Yeah.
Like, how do you underpay them? Like, it's probably the most important job out there. So
it's kind of like going cheap on the foundation of a building, right? Like,
dude,
let's just do half the concrete. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, oh, that's going to work out well in the long run, right? And look at where we are today, huh?
But you just gave me an epiphany and a goosebump. That's how beautiful those people are. They don't do it for the money, right? They do it because that's how much they care. Like, and to me, everyone out there, we may talk about money and we may talk about success and stuff, but if you're doing an ideal that you put out, like if that's in your mind, you wanted to be a great teacher, you make 80 grand a year, 50 grand a year. I don't care if it's 40 grand. If that's what you're doing, you're a success because you're doing what you put out to do, and you are changing the world. You know what I mean? And so money isn't everything. It's really about achieving what you go after, right? And if
finding happiness in whatever you do,
we want to slam at the charts, and that's what are you like me? Did you just not say no for an answer? Like, was there a time where you were just like, and how did you get through the periods? And people ask this, but how do you get through those very, I got through some dark periods. There was a September 2019. I made great trades. I didn't understand the trend in crypto really. That September came down. I'd been building positions all summer long, and I took a hit. And, I had to bounce back. How do you bounce back from the hits that you had? How do you keep yourself from making bigger, worse decisions later on as you begin to kind of get a foothold in trading?
Yeah. And so I think it's important to tell everyone, number one is, even to this day, I still screw up, right? I mean, there's no perfect trader. And again, if you're a chart trader, a technician, it's understanding that it's a probability game, right? So again, you're a rock star Hall of Famer. If you can win on 75% of your trades, you're in the Hall of Fame, and that should be enough to make you a ton of money. So understand that there's no perfection. I make mistakes. I make bad calls all the time. It's just, do I have more than good calls than bad calls? But that's great in terms of like how much struggle. I mean, I went through countless periods where I doubted whether I could achieve it. I'd take a big loss, I'd be bummed out, I'd have to go out back to square one, it almost felt like. And it's just like it does. Trading has a way of breaking you down. And I've always said this too, is that, like, even to this day, if I ever feel like I've got it, meaning like you start to get that like a little bit of ego to you, and you're like, oh, I can't lose, man, that, like, the second you get that, the market will smack you hard.
I say I know nothing but the fact of my own ignorance. I said it today. It's I try to say it 10 times a day, because make a few good trades, start feeling good. You hit $1 million in your account, think you're the man. Oh, I did it. Like,
dude.
I try to not to compare. I try to continue just to push the boat up a little bit. And that's another thing people get. They get to 100K, and then they start thinking, if I could just double 500, I'll hit the mill. But like,
Yeah. And I
that's the
think
time you should
And
probably
and
switch
and
it off.
that's right. That's the over leverage. That's the overconfidence. That's the kind of trying to hit a home run versus I've always been a strict trader where, well, not always, but I've grown into a trader where like my only goal is to hit singles and doubles. Like I
Mhm.
want to be Wade Boggs of trading because when you try to hit home runs, think about what a home run hitters do. They strike out all the time.
They
You
do.
can't afford in trading to strike out means a big loss, right? And so it's about going to the Hall of Fame as a singles and doubles hitter with a high batting average. That's so much more important in the scheme of things.
I have 15 years in now, right? I think you have like 7 more than I do, right? But I
Yeah.
feel like I hit a level close to you because I hear you talking, and I'm not saying like our levels of skill, but in understanding, because you'll say something, right? And it will hit me. And I'm the same way. Like you start realizing money in the hand, right? Bird in the hand, bird in the hand. If I'm up 7 and I know there's legs on the stoke, I just take it anyway, right? And I tell my
Yeah.
students too, I trade. What my biggest flaws is I sell early a lot. Like I sell early, but as I got older, I
You
like
start
more
to
money. I like
recognize.
more money, less percentage too, and that's the
Well,
beauty too, right?
and the key,
5%.
I think what you would agree with is that by taking profits on a consistent basis, you actually increase your net worth much more than if you let it ride. So, and I think that's a big differential is once you become a pro trader, it's not about hitting a home run for 100x. I mean, heck, I've never got 100x or even a 10x on any investment in my life. But by not trying for that, you don't end up giving back your gains and then taking a big loss. And I think that's the key is that it's about that consistency and just being consistent and not looking to go and make 100x on a trade. Because again, to me, it's the same thing as the lottery, right? The lottery out there, you hear, oh, it's $1 billion or 500 million for the mega millions. And it's like, oh man, if I could only, you start dreaming about what you're going to do. Well, that's the same thing with 100x. It comes around as often as you winning the lottery in realistic terms. Like I don't win the lottery, so why am I going to try to win the lottery in stocks? What I can do is I can consistently win small, which then equals a lot of money in the longer term.
I'm like a little insane, and I've been overly optimistic my whole life. Like that's something like, and I did 100x Safe Moon. I like over 100x
Amazing.
Cardano. I got into Cardano 2 cents for $3,600. Just held it for
Wow.
4 years. It was like, the
It's
thing with
awesome.
me was my first investments were speculative investments. Like I started buying the gold and silver because Peter Schiff said the housing crisis is coming, and then I saw it happen. So I go to Peter Schiff and start buying gold bars. That was like how it started for me. Then I
Mhm.
started researching the history of money, inflation. Oh my God, they're going to start printing money to zero. I said, I got to get myself out of the US dollar. In 2011, I'm telling my family and friends, like, we got to get out. And they're like, are you insane? And I'm like, guys, like, they're going to print this thing to zero. Like they did the continental dollar, the euro, like every other coin, every other thing in the world, they print to zero. And then I threw $2,500 in Great Panther Limited, a silver stock at the Toronto Stock Exchange. It did like a 3x or 4x about to
That's awesome.
nine grand. Then I threw that in Canopy Grow Corp. And I got into that before it was on the NASDAQ because I was going into the Toronto Stock Exchange and just, and I was never looking for like, oh, I'm going to come up. I was just thinking, can I get myself into something before everybody else? But I also
Right.
got into GVO. They were supposed to fly airplanes on corn oil. I ended up losing 14 grand, DCAing at the wrong time, trying to build back a lost position. So like
But
I've been through it, but I believe if you continuously throw money at speculative, like eventually one can hit. So I do day
right.
trade and I thoroughly trade, but I also keep I also keep a little portion of my money and I throw darts. Like I'll build an AI portfolio right now and I'll just start picking some low caps and some large caps and I'll start building a position. So I build positions in the bear market on the low that I do plan on holding. And if the chart conveys, I'll go in and out. You know what I mean? But
Mhm.
so like,
But I think what if I and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think one of the lessons that people should take from what you're saying is that you didn't go to some of those ones where you made 5x or 100x and put all your money into that one
no,
thing
definitely
and
not.
just hope
No, no.
you're using a small percentage where it's a calculated risk. You're saying, hey, I could lose all of this, but if it hits, I make 100x, and
Yeah.
it's a calculated risk of the amount of money. Like you might have, $1 million,
Amen.
you're only putting a small little bit in.
Amen.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I see traders like. I'll see a new trader join a group or any group, and they'll be like, "I lost 20 grand today," and I'm like, "Damn!" Like this person has like way smaller of a net worth, and they're losing way more money than I would
Yeah.
even consider even throwing into the market. How
Yeah.
did you develop risk? And with risk, how do you balance like family life and risk? Like, is there any time when you're in a heavy trade, but your family wants to go on a trip, and do you take money off the table when you're going places, or is trading number one, and then you kind of build family life around that?
That's a good question. I mean, family obviously always comes first, but I got a great wife that really handles the kids, and I put in as much effort, especially on weekends, as I can. But to be honest, I still check. Like if it's the evenings and the futures are open for the stock market, every once in a while I'm pulling out to check what the markets are doing. Crypto's kind of changed the game, right? Because it's 24/7. So I'm not like a big technical day trader in crypto. I'm more like, let me buy some swing trades. And so I don't have to pay attention constantly because I
Yeah.
mean, I couldn't even imagine trying to day trade crypto and always having to be tuned into the markets. But for me, it's much more about, on vacation, honestly, with my business and everything, I'm always working, right? I mean, I might be at the pool, but I got my phone and I'll be whipping it out every 5 or 10 minutes just to quickly check. And then I'll go back and say, okay, everything's fine. And I'll go back to it. And it's just the life I've grown into, and there are periods where I'm getting older where I want to say, okay, I'm going to tone it down a little bit. And I think that is slowly happening. But I mean, when you devote yourself to the markets and to charts, number one, it's amazing. Like there's no better job in the world than trader, right? You can do it from anywhere in the world. You can make insane amounts of money. You can also lose, but if you're good, you make insane amounts of money. And you can, literally it's the freedom, right? It's the freedom to be on vacation with your family and still be making 5, 10, 15K while you're on vacation. I always have this thing where I'm like, I want to pay for this vacation that I'm on while I'm on vacation in the
Vacation.
markets, right? It's kind of
Yeah.
like a little like test of me, right? So yeah, I mean but with family life, family always should come first because that's what matters. And even though I'm still always my mind is always on work, I always try to be there for the kids. They love to roughhouse, we love to play around, stuff like that.
Yeah. Now I'm new. My trading group's probably 3.5, 4 years old. I'm beginning to mentor people. Anyone who's starting a mentor business. Do you have any just, being vulnerable here? Do you have any
Yeah.
recommendations for your years of doing this? Like, is there ways can you get lost? Like, how do you pull back? How do you keep people from over influencing in your group? Like, how do you maintain power over group without feeling like you're like trying to become overbearing, just
Yeah.
any tips and tricks of how to mentor properly, or if there's anything that I haven't thought about in my life?
Well, so I think at least for me, right, and you probably know this, but like when you're starting out as a trader, the worst thing you can do is over leverage, right? So that's as soon as you over leverage, you've lost the trade. And,
Amen.
and I'll be honest, even if you're not down on the trade, you've lost it because the emotion that comes in when you're over invested will make you do the wrong thing at the wrong time. So like as a mentor, it's all about being like, listen, prove yourself on this really small amount of money that you can make positive trades and then slowly increase it. And if you increase it too much, you have to be able to recognize that your emotion is now at play and you have to back it back down. So like if I could do it all over, that's what I would do for myself. Just because I think I would have lost a lot less money early on in my trading career versus what I ended up losing. Because again, I did everything that everyone does, one stock, all my money in, boom, like, oh, this is going to be the greatest winner.
Mm-hmm.
Not really.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah. No, it's no one has the right answer, and that's why I love bringing people on the channel that are traders, because like no single trader has the same path, period. I just found out about Jesse Livermore last night and I read all his Wikipedia.
amazing
I
story.
mean,
Amazing.
unbelievable, right? Like I'm sitting there like,
Yeah.
dude makes 100 mil in the depression, right? Like ends up broke when it's all said and done. Like
That's like bigger than Elon Musk money now. Like it's
what he
incredible.
did was insane. And like he went bankrupt like 2 or 3 times in his mid to like early 20s. And then
Yeah.
still like, I mean, the mental fortitude he had, and like, it just
Well, you had the president going to him during the Great Depression, asking him to cover his shorts basically because they needed to rescue the U.S. economy,
he
and he was
begged him
like,
to stop shorting the market
"Yeah,
because he was like,
yeah."
all right. And then
And
he
then
wrote it back up for freaking.
but I think what's amazing about this is his story is amazing, and I do recommend I think it's called Reminiscences of a Stock Operator,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yep.
That's the book, and what's amazing is that number one, he blew himself up multiple times in his life, which shows you that even these amazing traders, it's still emotion. We're all human. We're all going to experience emotion, and then the sad part about it is he basically died broke, and he had ended up killing himself,
Yeah, blew
committing
himself away.
suicide. So it really puts things in perspective of how you have to manage risk so carefully.
What I tell everyone is like, I'm out of the rat race for now in my life, right? I say for now because it's like that reminding of a trader. Like I'm not always perfect, right? But I know I'll never, for now, if everything keeps going, I'll never have to work for someone again. I'll be able to trade for the rest of my life, do my mentoring, do my YouTube channel, have a blast, travel the world, right? And so the only way you ruin this, and that's for anyone where you're like, oh, compare yourself to a guy worth 50 mil. And like, oh, if I
Right.
could just double 1 mil to 2, if I could just double 2 to 4, next thing you know, you lose a mil. And like, That's depressing, man. And
Yeah.
Law of averages, right? You lose 10%, now you got to make 11% to get the money
Right.
back. You lose 20%, and every time you lose another more percentages, once you lose 90%, now you have to make what, 1,000%, something like 11,000% back to make the money back. So people don't realize it's a lot harder to go back up. So cut off the losses early, right? Like cut them off.
Yeah.
Things not going right.
And also, I would just add to that too. It brings me a great thought, which is like, there's so much pressure in our lives to like live up to other people's expectations, like keeping up with the Joneses, right? The most important thing as a new trader, keep your expenses as close to zero as possible, meaning like, you shouldn't be buying a Lexus or a BMW or whatever early on. You have to keep your expenses lower, because the higher your expenses in life, the more pressure you're going to feel to make winning trades. The more pressure you feel, the worse you're going to do. Like literally keep your expenses as low as possible. It's like starting your own business, right? You're starting a business of yourself as a trader, and you can't be taking on big expenses early on. It will ruin you.
Another thing, like, do you position yourself differently at different times? Like, do you trade way harder, like October, November, December? And do you take the summer? Are you lighter in the summer, like most bigger traders? Do you follow cyclical rules about the stock market? And is that true, or is that just something that people assume when they get in?
So it's good to know, but I'm a big fan of just like letting the market tell me what to do, right? So when I go into day trade in the beginning of the stock market, it's basically like, is there anything moving substantially today that might give me an opportunity? If there's not, doesn't matter if it's December or June or whatever, then you just have to sit on the sidelines. And that's another great point of like, people tend to want to force trades because it's an adrenaline thing. It's something about that endorphins, all that stuff in your brain, and you have to get over that. The second I started trading less, I actually ended up making more, because I was more selective, which means I had less trades out of the money, which means I was less emotional. And it was just being like, listen, if this hits my level, here's my thesis for this trade. Hits the level, I'll take it. If not, who cares? You know why? Because there's always another trade the next day. There's always another trade coming around the corner.
It's funny, even every once in a while, I still get wrapped up. I'm way better at it. But the other day, like Bitcoin went up and I missed the trade, and I
like revenge trading.
And I was like, and I sat there for a second and I was like, and I just, Sam, and then like 2 days later, I hit another green candle. I was like, and I said, see, Sam, like that wasn't the last trade. Like Bitcoin's going to do this again, bro. Like, but in the moment, sometimes you can get so intense in the moment that you have to pull back. I always tell them, go for a walk, do something.
Yeah.
I think we could talk for like 10 hours straight.
I do too.
I can't wait to see you again in person. I'm going to St. Pete's. I think I'm going to be able to see you in about a month.
Oh, that'd be awesome, man. You should totally come into our office over here. That'd be wonderful to have you in here. We do some lunch or something.
Yeah, we'll definitely do it. We'll have lunch. We'll hang out. But where can people find you? I know you do a show on Wednesdays that's amazing, that really hits hard. And I know you do a bunch of other stuff. You're on Twitter with Spaces. Just let all my lifers know where they can find you. Most people know you, but I'm sure there could be someone new every day that the algorithm just grabs in. And just find you, what you're doing, and what other type of media that you're making.
Yeah. So first of all, thanks for having me, man. I love this conversation. It's just such a chill, awesome conversation. So people can find me at verifiedinvesting.com. There's a crypto service I run there, as well as education. I put all my brain, everything I know is in the Winning Trader series, which is available on Verified Investing. And then In the Money Stocks is my stock website. And again, it's all about stocks, commodity trading, day trading, and everything like that. So there's that. There's Twitter. If you want to just follow me for free on Twitter, I know you're on Twitter as well. It's awesome. So really, people can pick what they want. I love that. It's a buffet of options for you guys, and just appreciate each and every one of you.
Gareth, man, God bless you and your family. Thank you so much for blessing me with your presence on the channel, man. And I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much, buddy. Have a good one.
You too, man.